churches and parachurch organizations is a lot of
What's a parachurch organization for
parachurch
those who don't know?
organization would be like a ministry, like a Christian ministry, or like a camp, like a summer camp that's not like a church, but it's like an organization that puts
Right.
on like Christian events.
Yeah.
So I think when you get into like where there's like a 10-page handbook on what the rules are, and that's not actually an exaggeration,
Yeah.
it's like feels very performative to
Oh
use
my
some of our
gosh,
vocab
that is
from
not how
earlier.
you would use that
I know,
word.
but it is because you're basically like, hang with me though. But what we're
Hanging.
saying
Hanging.
is like, okay, we want you to come on our trip. However, in order for us to accept you onto our trip, you have to act and look a certain way.
Mm.
You have to pretend
Right.
for the sake of the group, which I don't like that. Like
I think that as a Christian who's going to a Christian summer camp, for example, there is a level that is kind of expected of like, I don't know how to say this in a nicer way, but don't wear an outfit that you would wear to a strip club to church camp. That's just not like shouldn't happen. So I think in the sense there are some rules that are good, but I think that it's gotten to the point of the complete opposite end that I know a lot of people now that feel shame
yeah,
for like their own body. Like they're like, oh, I must always cover up because otherwise guys are going to look at me and like that would be horrible. And, or the opposite of like, I don't care. And I know a lot of people, I don't know personally a lot of people, but I know in general a lot of people have walked away from the church because of so many rules. And well, I love my body, and why wouldn't I want to show my body off when like that whole perspective on it. So I think that rules are good. They are there for a reason. Like God has set out rules for us in the Bible, such as don't have sex before marriage, right? And there's good within those. But Jesus came to abolish like not all rules, but to give us grace. And so like in the Old Testament, they had to give sacrifices for animals so that they could talk to God and have a relationship with God. And now we can have a relationship through Jesus if we accept him with grace. So I think that that part, that grace aspect has not really been reflected within a lot of churches and parachurch organizations. And it's been more like Old Testament rules versus New Testament.
yeah. Yeah, and I think historically, and especially I think it was like this when I was growing up, and it seems very similar now, is that a lot of the, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but a lot burden, a lot of like the responsibility of lust is put onto how the girl dresses.
Yes.
And very little to no conversation, I think, happens to the guys about how to have self-control.
Right.
It's like, well, because guys have no control, you have to dress a certain way.
Yes.
And it's like,
I personally, I think it is more awkward than it has to be within
Yeah.
the Christian community a lot of
Yeah.
times. I go to a Christian private school and I am very involved in my church. So I feel as though I have background, I guess, to speak on the Christian worldview more so than a secular, more broad worldview, I guess. But I can say that at my school and at my church, I have been pulled aside many times, like where they will separate the girls and the guys. And I don't know what they talk to the guys about. I've heard very little, but to the girls, they're like, you must protect your brother in Christ and his eyes. He is. I have actually been told the words before. What was it? That boys are animals. That they cannot control their own eyes. That they are like these ravenous beasts that can't control themselves. And God forbid I wear a tank top. My shoulders are going to lure them and basically give them permission to do unexcusable things to me or to other women, which I think is very sad that we have, like, they have just made my brother in Christ a animal, a ravenous beast. And that is not the way that God designed it. In marriage, the guy is supposed to be the spiritual leader and the leader of the household. So let's say, for example, I'm looking for a guy to date and I'm trying to get married. I'm in whatever I decide I'm ready for that, right? I'm going to date and marry a ravenous beast, and then I'm going to trust him to lead my household. That is a horrible, like, who would want that? Why would I willingly sign up for that? Like, it doesn't make sense in my mind. And I personally have been told, oh, you don't dress modest enough. Like, oh, you.
People have told you that.
Yes. Adults, not children. I have many of my friends have been like, oh, like, you dressed so modest, like way more modest than I would ever dress. Like, I don't know how you do that, whatever. But then I've had, on the other hand, adults tell me, like, I can't believe that you would wear that top or that you would wear shorts, period. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, we are, like, at the beach. So were you expecting me to show up, like, in pants and jeans? Like, I'm a little confused. But I think there is a time and a place. Like, if I'm going to a professional work setting, I probably won't be wearing jean shorts unless that is what the work setting calls for. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But in a lot of Christian spaces, me, along with my peers, have been given this script of, you need to protect your brothers in Christ by covering up everything. And I mean everything. I mean, like, I'm talking like your shoulders and your ankles sometimes. Like, it seems to be that much. It's not actually, like, it doesn't say in the rules, like, you need to cover your ankles, but
That's the vibe it's giving.
Yes, they make it such a, like, focus. And then when I've asked a few of my guy friends about it before, they've been like, oh, they just kind of told us, like, and I'm like, they told you what? And they're like, oh, well, like, I don't really remember. Like, they didn't really say anything, like, important. They were just like, oh, your sisters in Christ or something, like, don't look at them or something like that. Like, they're, I don't know. I can't really speak on it. But the worst thing that I could assume is that they say that we dress so horribly, like we're prostitutes in the way that we're dressing, that they shouldn't even look at us or associate with us. And so I think that kind of goes back to say, why aren't guys approaching girls? Like, in a lot of Christian spaces, especially, it's been made out to be, oh, they're dangerous. They are like these creatures that will lure you into their traps. And
that's been a general messaging to girls about guys.
No, other way around.
To guys about girls.
Yes. I don't know that for sure.
Girls will lure the guys into their trap by their seduction and, like, their shoulderless or strapless thing. Okay.
Yes. I don't know if that's actually what they've been told. I've never been on the guy side of the conversation when they split us up, because I am a girl. But from general stuff I've heard from my friends, it's kind of like, yeah, well, just don't. A lot of times in Christian spaces, which I don't think is necessarily wrong, is the Bible tells us that we should flee from sin and that we should run away from it. And I agree with that. But with temptation, I think it also says to run away from temptation. Yes. What I find difficult about that, and I don't know if this is necessarily a right or wrong thing, more of a personal, like, preference.
It's a conversation, so we're just two people talking.
Right. Is that you, like, just because a girl dresses in a way that might make you think lustful thoughts doesn't mean you shouldn't talk to a girl ever again, in my personal opinion. I would encourage that guy who was thinking that and, like, this is horrible. Like, I don't want to be thinking lustful thoughts. This isn't who I am. Like, I don't understand this. I would encourage that guy to go to God with that first and foremost and to pray about it and be like, God, what can I do? And to find ways to learn self-control so that through the grace of God, there can be redemptive power in those lustful thoughts. And that one day that guy can be in a beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I don't like about the intense focus on how the girl's dressing is that it sort of removes I feel what should be the primary responsibility on the guy to have self-control, learn self-control, and be honoring of the women in his life, and not be that like out of control animal.
Right.
Right. So like something that I've said in actual conversations to people is like, okay, if we have this 10-page dress code for camp or whatever, what happens when these guys go to New Smyrna Beach? Like they have no skills. They don't know how to.
They fall into hideous traps, and like
So
that.
my
This
point
is
is
what
like
I've been
there has to
preached.
be more like, of course, like I think it's wise to consider how you
Yes,
dress
I
and
agree 100%.
what it says about what you think about your own self-worth. But I feel like it shouldn't be the primary focus. I think the primary focus, or at least as equal, should be for the men to learn how to be men and have self-control and self-leadership. One of the things that when I have heard Jason Redman, who's a retired Navy SEAL, he's spoken at some Fairway stuff. He did our Elevate event this past year. He talks about self-leadership being the first and most important leadership, because if you can't lead yourself, how are you going to lead other people?
Right.
So if the guy is supposed to be the leader, how do you then also say, well, on this topic, she has to bear all the responsibility for it's a partnership, right? Like there's a modesty effort on the part of the young woman, and then the young man should be building that muscle of self-discipline and self-control, and people he can talk to have tactics to learn how to avoid and repent and make better decisions, just like anything else in your life that you might have a struggle with, whether it's eating too much crumble or whatever. Like you should have things that you're doing to build your habits to where you would like to go.
Right.
You know, back to the black coffee analogy that we talked about earlier. If the only thing we're talking about is how the girl dresses and how she's the main temptation, it's like that's the only thought, and there's not, in my opinion and experience, there's not enough conversation and effort. This is why I want to talk about it here. Is there's not enough conversation and energy and tactic on how to have better self-control as the man. Like something that we've talked about in small group discussions a lot is particularly social media stuff, and how how the algorithm will tune, and how, you know, if something comes up that you know you shouldn't be looking at, you have to swipe it right away, unfollow it, tell that you don't want to see this anymore, because the longer you look at something, the algorithm says, oh, I want this, and it'll give you more.
Right.
And so those are some tactical things that we've talked about. That's like, hey, here's a way where you can try to reduce this temptation or this struggle that you have, or just try to not be on it, you know?
Right.
And so those are things I think should have more energy. And I think that could be at least partially the cause for the continued decline in male leadership of male-female relationships, you know, like where a lot of, like I've overheard conversations from you about like just general, we're not naming people, but like, you know, so-and-so maybe likes a guy, but like the guy say something to him, like, it's like the girl's giving all the signals, but the guy just like.
Well, I think that is more, sometimes the girl thinks, okay, very honestly.
That's okay. All right.
Very honestly. A lot of times the girl thinks they're giving all the hints, like, oh my gosh, like I liked his last 3 stories. This guy has no idea you've liked his last 3 stories. He knows, like, respectfully, he knows nothing. Like, he could be very smart.
It maybe isn't as
not be picking up your hints. Girls think very differently. Girls, like, analyze all the details. Guys are, like, waiting for you to walk up to them and be like, I like you.
This is great coaching, actually.
This is what
because
I've learned.
this is, I don't think, unique to an age group.
Yeah.
Like, I tell my wife, your mom, this all the time, is like, I just need you to just tell me. Like,
Right.
don't.
Whereas girls were like, we gave them all of the hints.
Yeah, we don't have the same intuition. We just need you to like drop it on us.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
you're
So that's
cute.
what I'm saying
Just be
is
like, you're cute. Like, or like, we
Right.
know what that means.
Right.
Like, liking our last 3 posts, maybe you just liked where I was at, like the restaurant. Like, we don't know. We don't know.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is sometimes I think it is that the guy like is getting all the hints and he's just like, oh, like I don't want to deal with it. But sometimes I think it is that the girl's like, I gave him all the hints, and the guy's like, there were hints.
Yeah.
So.
But in general, it seems like, and I maybe correct me if I'm wrong about this, but it seems like from which you don't know how it was when I was a teenager.
Yeah,
but like
I wasn't there.
Like on average, most guys were like trying to ask out girls like pretty regularly, like to date.
Yeah, that's not the
to
thing
go,
now.
Like, and now it's like not. It's like I feel like the norm is like the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And like I haven't studied it sociologically, but
Me
I mean
neither.
it just seems like the cause of that could be we've been telling men for like decades that like your masculinity is toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that
I think there can be toxic masculinity personally, but I don't
would
think
argue
all
is
masculinity
not real
is
masculinity,
toxic.
How I feel like toxic masculinity, what that would mean to me is a man who may be physically strong or large and is insecure or lacks self-control.
Yeah.
Which I feel like would be unmasculine qualities.
Fair point.
So to me, like I would redefine toxic masculinity as like a lack of true masculinity.
Yeah.
Because true masculinity should be like controlled power and strength.
Yeah.
Restraint.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when most people say toxic masculinity, what they're actually talking about is a man who lacks self-control and restraint and is mean or controlling.
Right.
There's a big difference between leading and controlling.
I 100% agree.
Right. So I think that it's something to seriously think about is what we're saying to young men about who they are, what their identity is.
And I think
what
the same
they offer.
for young women. Yeah. I think that a lot of the things that young women have been told versus young men has really like bridged the gap or
How do you mean?
Made the gap wider
Yeah.
between girls and guys and how they can have relationships, even platonically. Like, I think, of course, it has a factor in how dating relationships are and how girls and guys relate romantically. But I think more than that, it's kind of broken up a lot of platonic or potentially platonic relationships.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't interrupt.
But a lot of times,
You're good.
I don't know what to say.
How to bring that home? How do you mean? Expand on that a little bit more. Like when you say it's created a problem. Like the messaging women have received on that too has created a problem with romantic. I think it makes
women feel like they can't approach guys because they're only going to tempt guys, and I feel like guys can't feel like they can't approach girls because they're not. I think a lot of them have been told that they're not ready. They need to have their entire life together first, which I don't think is necessarily true. Yes, I think that if you are going to be in a committed relationship, you are going to get married, you should have a plan on how you are going to provide, because that is what the Bible calls for. But I think, especially if you are going to date as a teenager, if you decide that you are wise enough for that decision, if you really feel like the Lord is in that relationship, that neither of you are going to have your entire life figured out. Like, you don't have the white picket fence, you don't have the 3 kids, you don't have the 2 dogs. Like, it doesn't work that way. It just isn't, that's not natural. So I think that a lot of times we're kind of told, oh, you can't, like, you can't talk to each other. Oh, you're not supposed to talk about that. You're not supposed to do that. And it's really made it difficult in my experience for guys and girls to like even be at a party together and just talk with each other. It's kind of like always you will see now guys and girls separate. Like if we are like at a party, there's a guys table and there's a girls table. There, like it's always been like that for as long as I can remember. And I thought it was something we would grow out of eventually. Like I thought it was like, oh, there's like cooties. But even now when I have like I'm at a party and I'm friends with the guys there, we will still naturally sit as an all girls table and an all guys table. And I don't think that's necessarily bad. I just think it shows something about the way that we have all been told certain things, specifically about modesty and how that kind of plays a role into everything. And like you were saying, I think that we have focused on it so much that it's become like something that you can't ignore.
It's gone so far to where it's like, how do you have a healthy, like people who say like, don't even look in the general direction of the opposite sex until you're 18 or 23 or whatever. Like, then how do you like,
Then what?
and now you're whatever age with no practice, no skill, no input from people who genuinely care about you, aka your parents, to be able to kind of guide and navigate those situations. It's a complex topic. I feel like there's an age where it could be too soon to start dating.
I agree.
There's an age where I think you could wait too long, and I think having 3 daughters, I would say that that age could vary per person based on where they're at spiritually, emotionally, mentally, what kind of free time they have, depending on like what other extracurriculars or sports they might be in, and where they want to go to school. Like unfortunately, there's not like a one size fits all kind of what I think would be like, okay, this is the age, but I think there's a lot of value in experiencing life and complicated topics that have consequence when you're in a loving, safe home environment where your parents can help you navigate and get some reps on what does it look like, what's a good decision, what's a good habit, and just to be able to talk through things versus just kind of like doing 0 reps and then going out to the big game like with no practice and no support. I think it's definitely not an easy topic, not a one size fits all topic, but I do think there's a lot of value in getting some experience, at least some. And right now it feels like there's nearly none, in a lot of situations now, particularly in the
can't remember the last time
about.
that we talked about like how guys and girls are supposed to be friends, or how like we live in the same world, believe it or not. Like there's not a pink world and a blue world. Like we see each other all the time, and yet we're so separated. It feels sometimes, at least to me, like we live in 2 completely different worlds. And I know a lot of my friends are like, oh, I wish I had a boyfriend, but no guys will even talk to me, period. Like I don't even have any guys that I would consider a close friend. And I know a lot of guys who will be like, oh, I really wish I had a girlfriend, and I'm like, but what? And they're just like, well, like it's just not
a surefire
really
way to make that happen is like talk to girls.
But they're couldn't do that. Which I do think there is a balance in it, because I do think that some people can be hyper focused on, oh my gosh, I need to be in a high school relationship. I need to be in a relationship at all times. And I think that says something about kind of going back to modesty, like your self-respect for yourself. And I don't think that like modesty in relationships with guys directly correlate, but I think they have a indirect correlation for sure. Like your self-respect, I think, goes into if you're like, I'm self-respecting and I really like this guy and he respects me, then, and if you are at a place where you think you are mentally, emotionally mature enough and you feel like he is, I don't think there's anything wrong with dating in high school. which is something I wouldn't have always said. But I think I've learned that. And on the other hand, I think there are some people who are like, oh my gosh, I really just want to make out with that guy. And I'm like, you should not be in a relationship right now. Like that, because if that is your number one goal, then you're missing the point of a relationship, because the whole, in my beliefs, the reason you date is to marry someone. And so if you don't see qualities in that guy that you would marry him, then you shouldn't be dating him. And if you yourself are not ready to be like the woman that you would want to a guy to marry, then you shouldn't be dating.
Something that I think you said there to kind of wrap up that thought is that you didn't directly say this, but the gist I got was that you should be, the goal should be for you to feel whole and complete as an individual person, and have your relationship with the Lord be the first thing.
Yes, it should always be the first thing.
And not look for completion or fulfillment in a relationship.
Yes.
And I think that's a big distinction, and something that I think is a good test of if you are in a relationship, particularly, obviously, if you're a Christian, is during the time you've been in the relationship with this person, has your relationship with the Lord gotten better or worse?
Right.
And I would say if it's gotten worse, then that person is someone you should consider like not being in a relationship with anymore. And so, yeah, I think that's a beautiful conversation. Thank you for sharing all that. I think that will help some people.
Okay.
So,
you're welcome.
Thank you for joining me on another episode. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
I can't think of anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And thank you all the listeners and watchers for joining us on the first episode of the Made to Be Great podcast in 2026. Look forward to bringing you many more this year.
You were made to be great. Don't settle for less. You were made to be